Hello, everyone. Tracy here, your resident business rebel, and you're listening to Digital Business Your Way podcast, the show that lets true stories and insider secrets of online entrepreneur life unfold. Our business world is growing, and as an online business coach and digital product creator, I believe you didn't become an entrepreneur to grin and bear your way through business. So I'll be your guide as we drop in on coaching calls, have intimate sit downs with online personalities you love, and discuss ideas, opportunities, and strategies circulating our online world. So pop in your earbuds, tap follow, and join me as I demystify this thing called business.
Like you said, it wasn't an idea of, oh, how can I split this up to make more money? It was really, how can I serve my audience the best way that I can? And how can I make this information easier to digest for them and make it like so that they can get results faster? We just need to put our CEO hats on and think, okay, how can I make this better? How can I look to my audience? How can I use that information that they're giving me to redefine what this offer looks like?
Welcome in, everyone. And today I am joined by Melissa Mitchell of Wandermint Creative. And we are talking all about, well, life as a digital CEO, as a course creator, as a coach, as someone who has an idea, has platforms, and then realizes that things need to change, right? And who hasn't been in that situation? It is a wonderful telling of what it's like to put offers out there and to let them evolve based on how we feel about them and the feedback we get and the kind of things that we need to do to let them serve our people the best way that they can. And if you do not know who Melissa is, you really should. She is the owner of Wandermint Creative, a YouTube video marketing agency with a coaching and course creation arm. She helps online service providers and coaches scale their online business using YouTube to build an organic lead engine that fuels their sales funnels with consistent best fit leads. Let's listen in to how her business has evolved, and we even share some little insider YouTube tips that you really got to get in on if you haven't done them yet. All right. And that's the magic trick. That made it work. You said the magic words. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming in. And
Mhm.
we are working through our tech issues. We've got all of this going, and yeah, it's a beautiful day, Melissa. It's a beautiful day.
Beautiful day.
Well, yes, thank you for being here today. And I love this story that you have because, whenever you and I were talking before, it was about how you had this idea for this business. You had this idea for like you knew what you wanted to build, but it's been able to kind of grow and breathe and evolve over time, right? So at the present moment, it is now has an
Mhm.
agency side, it has a coaching side, and you've had like this big like signature course, like the big behemoth of the thing, and you're like, wait a minute, this isn't serving people well. I think I need to kind of look at it and see, do I break it apart? Do I tear it down? Do I start from scratch? Like, what do I really do? And I appreciated this story. And that was why I thought we needed to do this interview because a lot of people can really relate to that. The people who come to me for coaching, they're usually in that place where they're like, I want to
Mhm.
burn this down. Like, it doesn't look like I thought it would. It doesn't look like what I want. And I don't
Yeah.
know what to do. So I would love it if you would, talk to us about where you started and how you've kind of did you start coaching first? Did you start agency first? Was it all of this done for you that then became the course? Chicken and egg, right?
Yeah. So I'll give you a little bit of a backstory because I've had many iterations inside of my business. And so when I first started my business, I was actually doing what I went to college for, which was graphic design and communications. And so that's what my degree is in. So I started doing websites and branding, which slowly pivoted into social media
Mm.
management, which then brought me to YouTube because all of my clients on the agency side, so I was doing one-on-one work with that, and all of my clients seemed to have similar problems, which was they didn't have enough content and they weren't bringing in any
Yeah.
leads. And I was also struggling with those things as a new social media manager at the time. And this was, we're talking about 4 or 5 years ago in the time of Instagram where you could just put up a static image and and go on with your day kind of thing. And so I thought, well, there's got to be something out there that I can do where I'm not scouring Facebook groups for leads. I'm not trying to burn money to the ground in Facebook ads. Like I need something that's sustainable. And so that's where I came across YouTube. And so I started putting up some videos on YouTube. And within about 6 months or so, I was able to sell out my one on one services for my social media management at the time just from YouTube leads alone.
Mm.
And I was like, there is something here. Like, this is what I need to concentrate on. And so I moved all of my social media clients into YouTube management clients. So I was strictly agency at the time. And I just started doing what I had learned for myself for my social media clients. And that's kind of how my business as it is today was born. It was really born out of me and my desperation of just trying to get my own clients and realizing that YouTube was the answer and slowly pivoting all my clients to
Yeah.
that. And now I have, like you said, the agency side and the coaching side. So on the agency side, we do everything for you when it comes to your YouTube channel. So your YouTube strategy, your video creation, your editing, and your monthly management.
And I love that because it like your offer was born out of you doing it. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. I think that's so important because sometimes you don't wanna just, like, sometimes it feels like you're just picking something out of thin air, or it feels like there's a lot of people who come into the online space picking something out of thin air, but when you can really base it off of trial and error, I think that helps you create so much better offers, and it helps you become a better practitioner as well.
Yes. Yeah, and like there's nothing wrong with teaching people things that like you have an expertise in, right? But there is that beautiful element of being able to show
Mhm,
people that practical side, that doing side, right? And there's that balance there of it if it's like I can show you all of these things that I know, but I can also go that extra layer deep of the things that I not only know, but I've also done. And, and it's almost gets to play with this, come and
mhm.
experiment with me.
Yeah, 100%, and that's why I don't ever wanna get rid of I say that now, but I don't wanna get rid of my agency side because it is like my experiment zone, if you will, because in the online space and in really any industry, things are constantly changing, but so much more so in the online space. Things are going at such a rapid speed that we need to keep up with what are the new trends, what's working, what's not working, and so by having that agency side, I am able to pivot that and learn so that I can update my courses and I can make them better for the coaching side because I do really love the coaching side, but I don't think I would be as good of a coach if I didn't have the agency side as
Yes.
well.
Yeah, it keeps you like fingers on the pulse kind of thing, right? And so you're not just trying with
Mhm.
your own stuff, but then you get to try at scale.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes, 100%. And it's cool to see different industries working
exactly.
also, right? Because if you're just working on your own, I would only be in the marketing sphere, whereas when I get to work with different clients, I get to see different industries and how those different industries can flourish on YouTube as
Yeah,
well.
and that was what I was thinking because it's like for us, we sell knowledge, right? But what about the people who are selling a product or they're selling a
Mhm.
different type of knowledge? They have like we are selling information for the sake of making other money, whereas some people are selling knowledge for the sake of entertainment or enjoyment or quality of life, right? Where people aren't necessarily getting an ROI out of it.
Right.
It's kind of that intrinsic versus extrinsic situation. And, with platforms like YouTube, there's a place for all of that, but it's not necessarily the same techniques.
Mhm. Yeah, I 100% agree. And so that's why, I took it from the agency, going back to like your very first question that you asked me, I took it from the agency and then pivoted it into that coaching section so that I had kind of both sides and I could help more people too with both kind of options available. Whereas, they can't necessarily hire me to do one on
Mhm.
one. I can learn YouTube through my courses and my digital products.
Yeah. So which came first?
So I don't even know if that
The
was like,
no, absolutely, because my what I was gonna ask was that which came first, the coaching or the course? So that the agency was born out of like the social media, then it's like you fell in love with the platform, so you made that shift over to YouTube, which, I mean, to me, that's more of a visual search engine, right? It's a, a video search engine, but some people still kind of think of it like a, social media kind of thing. I mean, I don't know. You're the expert. So the platform shift inside of the done for you, right? As a service provider, then it became a larger scale service provider. So it shifted into that agency model, right? And then from the agency model, it was like, okay, now let me actually teach other people. So did you start teaching other people in that more intimate coaching side, or did you go straight into the masses like course side?
Yeah, so the very first program I created was Video Marketing Accelerator, and it was that large program that you talked about at the beginning, which we can get more into. But it was kind of like everything that I had ever learned about YouTube in one program. And I first launched it as a live kind of cohort where people joined, and then I kind of taught it week by week, which I believe is such a great model when you're trying to develop a new course because it gives you so much feedback. But it was a great course. Don't get me wrong, and I only recently retired it. But I found that the biggest problem with it was that it was everything in the kitchen sink, if you will, when it comes to YouTube and building a sales funnel off the back end of YouTube and
Mm,
repurposing. So it covered everything. And my big thing with YouTube, my unique differentiator, if you will, from other YouTube coaches out there is that I really show you how to use YouTube as a CEO and a business owner and how to actually bring in leads with YouTube into your back end sales funnel. So it's not just about vanity metrics or being an influencer on YouTube, but it really is about using it strategically as the biggest money making asset in your business. And so I was showing them that in the first program I created, Video Marketing Accelerator, but I was also showing them how to create a sales funnel on the back. And I was also showing them how to repurpose their video content to all their social platforms, which is a lot of
yes.
information. So after about 3 iterations of the program, I realized that, it was just too much information for people to go through in a short period of time. Like the first couple cohorts were about 6 weeks, and it was just too much information for 6 weeks. And so I thought, how can I break this apart and make it more digestible for my
Yeah,
audience?
I mean, because it's a beautiful promise, right? To go from let's go into this new platform all the way to let's make money out of it, and in 6 weeks. I mean, there's definitely the glamour
Mhm.
in that, but the reality of the speed, right? I mean, because you have a beautiful framework that you walk people through that helps them. That I think you call it a flywheel, right? That helps them like almost templatize the process and be able to create it, in a nice I don't know, systemized, quicker, manner. And that makes it like a bit more easeful. But I
Yeah.
think even then, 6 weeks, it is that kind of classic fire hose idea. Yeah. Where it's almost like people need to have that stabilization and that kind of acclimatizing to their new reality, to what they have just now turned on in their business before they hit that next step, before they're ready to turn on the funnel size. Right. So, as much as we love that idea of speed and we're like, oh my God, I can like start making money this quick, I can start like actually, making back my investment. Hell yes, I am all in. To then it's like, oh my God, when am I going to, like, I can't even slow down. My body hasn't even caught up to what my brain is dreaming about. Right. And so we end up almost like accidentally self sabotaging, and we end up kind of hiding, and we end up kind of moving into that place of, wait, what's going on? I don't know what's happening right now. And we almost stop showing up for ourselves. And it's really just because we're trying to catch up with all the goodness. It's a good thing what's happening, but we're not giving ourselves time to climatize to our new reality, right? And to process all the stuff that's happening. So it's that case of like slowing down to speed up. So I love that, like, you brought that out into the wild. You
Yeah.
gave the people time in real life to try it, in real life to do it, but it was like, wait a minute. I think this needs to kind of come apart. I think I see a situation here where I'm not out for a money grab. I'm not like, oh my God, I can make 3 times the money by splitting this up. It's not that kind of like bullshit. Instead, it was more like, hang on, what do my humans need to be able to get even more out of this and be able to actually turn this into not a flash in the pan idea that they're going to like try and then throw away and think it doesn't work for them, but instead be able to actually blend into their business in the long run.
Yeah, 100%. Because, YouTube is a long
Mm.
game. It is. It's not necessarily like Instagram where you can, throw up a couple posts and DM people. And like, yes, you can make sales quickly off of YouTube. Don't get me wrong. There are clients that I've had that have, but overall, compared to other platforms, it is a longer game. It's a sustainable game, and it's one that's like, it's like an investment where it will continue to pay
Yes.
you for years to come, which is why it's worth your time. But it is a little bit of a longer play in terms of getting the strategy done, creating the videos, and doing it every single week. And so, yeah, I had many iterations of the first program where I tried it at 6 weeks, and then I tried it just as a course. Then I tried it as, a little bit longer. I think I did 12 weeks, and it's still just something was missing. And so when I polled everyone who had taken the course, the same answer I got over and over again was, this was such great information. I learned so much, but it was just a lot of information to process. And so, like you said, it wasn't an idea of, oh, how can I split this up to make more money? It was really, how can I serve my audience the best way that I can? And how can I make this information easier to
Mm.
digest for them and make it like so that they can get results
Yeah.
faster? And so that's why I decided to split it up. So now it's the Sold Out YouTube System, which is the brand new course that just launched, and we're in live cohort mode right
Mm.
now. Our students are working through it. We're in about week 2. So that's really fun, and it's going to be 12 weeks long of live. And what happens in this program is it's just YouTube strategy. So in the first phase, we're really setting up your YouTube strategy, that foundation. Who are you trying to serve? What video ideas? How are you going to make money off of it? How does it connect with the rest of your marketing? Like really that plan, that roadmap that you can work through. And then we go into the YouTube Flywheel, which is what you had mentioned previously, and that's my 7-step system for creating converting YouTube videos. So really, really, really step by step and templatize so that it becomes a flywheel that you can just continue to use over and over again and really create that momentum. And then we move into, okay, so now that you know what to do with your YouTube strategy and with your YouTube videos, how can we put this on autopilot? How can we make it faster? And so that's where I give you all the systems and the video production line is what I call it, to make your videos really, really quickly. And we learn how to batch them so you can create a month's worth of videos in 2 hours or
I
less.
absolutely love that. And, to you listening, it's like this is a reminder that results take implementation and integration. And as creators, notice how like she took the
Yeah.
feedback and then she made the changes accordingly, right? And it wasn't just like one offhand comment. It was like repeated over time. And it was like, what do I actually need to look at? And then what adjustments, what tweaks are sitting here? And for those of us who take courses and coaching programs, this is a reminder to give the feedback. It's like, remember that as we are creators, we love getting feedback,
Oh,
but that means we also have to be the people who give feedback. So every time that you're sent a survey, make sure to actually take it. So that way the people on the other side get to actually make the
so
changes.
true.
I mean, it takes that little bit, right? As much as we want to get it, we have to remember to give it. So there's where the three things that I heard there it is
Yeah.
and I mean very much compliments to you for that because it shows a lot of maturity and of taking time as a business owner to assess, right? And to actually like respond instead of react to what was going on. Because you very much could have panicked and could have been like, oh my gosh, I guess I just wasn't making a good thing. What am I going to do? I've done too much. And it's okay if you have that kind of emotional
Yeah.
reaction. Not saying you personally did, but to the listener, it's okay if that's kind of like that instant oh kind of feel. But to go, okay, hang on, no, what actually happened? What's going on in
Mhm.
this moment, and what do I want to do with this, and how do I want this to actually be, and how can this moment serve me, right? And it sounds like that
Mhm. 100%.
cycle happened more than once. So you probably had to kind of grow that muscle and make that a bit of now it might be more of like muscle memory, but there was probably that learning phase with that response as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I always say, and I say this to my coaching students all the time, is that we always want to think of data over drama,
Mm,
right? And it's so easy as a business owner when you're creating all these things to let emotion take over. And like you said, be like, something's wrong with me, and let it mean something about you. If your course isn't selling, or maybe you're not getting the best reactions, or maybe you're feeling overwhelmed, like all the things that happen to us as business owners, it's so easy to make it about ourselves or think that there's something wrong with the information that we're teaching or the program that we have. But sometimes it's not that, it's that we just need to make small
mm,
tweaks. We just need to put our CEO hats on and think, okay, how can I make this better? How can I look to my audience? How can I use that information that they're giving me to redefine what this offer looks like? So, like, even in this new iteration of this program, a lot of the core material is the same. I've just updated it. I've added new tools and resources that my audience was looking for. I've added SOPs and swipe files, things to make their lives
yeah,
easier. And I've added different things like a rolling question portal where they can ask me questions and provide their videos for feedback
yep,
and things like that, because that's something they were looking for. So if you're feeling like you're struggling right now and your offer maybe isn't what you want it to be, can you go back and look at the data or ask your audience and think about how you can do a new iteration of what you're
mm.
teaching?
I love that. I love that so much. And on, like this data part, it takes that time that you're talking about and how that, whenever you said that YouTube is that long game, is that part of it being SEO driven? Like, do you think that that's part of that platform base and how people are there more for, especially in our industry, it is definitely more of a learning situation versus like a consumption. I mean, yes, we watch cats playing piano, but it's definitely more of like, I came here because I was looking for something, and now here's a tutorial showing me that something.
Yeah, so two kind of different sides of the coin with that question. People come to YouTube with a different intent than they are when they're passively scrolling on Facebook or Instagram. So I always want to say that to kind of prime in your mind that we have to approach YouTube in a very different way than we would approach Instagram or Facebook. People are coming, like you said, with a problem, or they're looking for a solution. And so they're typing things differently in there, which is a good thing because it means that the buying cycle also decreases dramatically, because if you can solve their problem and then give them the next step to solve that problem even further with your products and services, that's how you make sales on YouTube. So the search intent is different on YouTube than it is with those other platforms. So it decreases that buying cycle, which is really great because then you can actually sell more of your products and services on the back end. But it does make it a long game in the sense of, one, search, yes, keywords, right? Because those keywords are going to continue to work for you, not just the day you publish your video, but also tomorrow, 6 months from now, 2 years
Mhm.
from now, 6 years from now. Like, as long as your video is up on YouTube, it will continue to work for you. So it is a long game in that sense, which is a good thing. Like, that is amazing. No other platform is going to give you the longevity that YouTube will. And that's what makes it so sustainable. But it also is the long game in that, to be honest, the learning curve to create a longer form video is going to be a little bit longer than a 60-second reel that you're putting over a trending
Mm.
sound, right? Or a B-roll footage that you're putting text over. There is going to be a little bit more effort involved in sitting down, coming up with a script, and filming it. Now, that being said, you can put templates and processes in place to make this a lot faster for yourself, but it is going to be a little bit longer of a commitment than, that 60-second reel.
So that makes me think of 2 questions. One of them, like, and I know you have various clients, but given our industry of, people who have online businesses and we're, service providers, course creators, coaches, right? That kind of thing. How much does or doesn't it matter if our videos look the same? Is there a good thing where there's like that continuity brand
Yeah, you mean
awareness
in
versus oh gosh, this is so boring. I'm supposed to wow people kind of feel.
Yeah, so when you say that, do you mean they look the same in terms of, like, everyone has talking head videos on YouTube, or what do you mean by that
So when I
exactly?
think about YouTube, I think about them the same way whenever I'm making one of my like workshops, right? It's just the free version of like one of my workshops that I charge for. So just like if it was a lesson inside of one of my courses. right? So that's me interacting, talking with things with, I'm in my office, and sometimes I put up something next to my head for, if it
Mhm.
requires a visual element. Otherwise, I don't have one on there. But it's, I have like slides, text, typeface, all that kind of stuff that match whatever I'm talking about, right? Because that's kind of that sameness, that's that
Right.
branding that goes along with stuff. And to what you were saying about how that there's that learning curve versus social media where you're picking trending things or you're doing, a B-roll thing. For me, like YouTube, it's like you don't want to accidentally look like a professor who needs help from their teenager, but at the same time it's like you want it to be like simplified, and you want people to like recognize you.
Yeah, 100%. I got what you're saying now. So, 2 things. I always say that the value of your content you're delivering is way more important than the production value, number 1. I know people who have been wildly successful on YouTube with literally just using the built-in camera on their laptops and a microphone and, like, just talking head, barely any editing, and been very successful. Obviously, the more branded you are and the more interactive and kind of different clips you can add into your videos, the more engaging it's going to be, which is going to help you. But if the content of your video sucks, the content of your video sucks. It doesn't matter how good your production value is. So always, always concentrate on the content itself and what you're teaching and making sure it's actually attaching to what your ideal clients are actually searching for, going back to that the search intent, right? Because that's what's going to actually make the difference on YouTube, not how fancy your branding is that's coming and swiping beside your head and all that stuff. I think that's something that people really get caught up with, and it really holds them back from actually moving forward and being successful with YouTube because they think they need to have all of those things and they really don't.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what made me wonder about, that sameness, because to me, I would just think that it's like continuity. And if someone is, actually on your channel's page where they're seeing like over and over and over again the same thumbnail, 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 then, they should be able to kind of quickly scan the title versus worrying that, oh my gosh, these are the same colors, or this is the same looking thumbnail, or is she wearing the same outfit? Like that kind of thing doesn't matter so much as like the clarity of, are you knowing what that episode's actually about? And is it going to help me quickly?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, thumbnails is a whole nother conversation. We could have a whole podcast just on thumbnails
Damn, I walked into
where
something.
I fully believe your thumbnails should not look the same. In fact, if
Ah,
they do,
okay. Okay.
we could it's one of the most overlooked pieces on YouTube, but yeah, your thumbnail shouldn't look the same for sure. There definitely needs to be, that eye-catching aspect to your thumbnails. But in terms of like the actual graphics that are in your video itself, that matters less than you think.
Ah,
And in
okay.
fact, like inside of my programs, like inside of the Sold Out YouTube system, I will show you how to actually create graphical templates that you can use in your videos that literally just rinse and repeat. You add them into your editing software, you pull them into each video as you quickly edit. So it doesn't need to be
But it's
overcomplicated.
flipping that. So the longer parts that you need, the stuff that's inside the actual video you're making, make that the part that is the sameness. And then the little thumbnail is like where you kind of put that creative eye-catching juices.
Right. Yeah. Because if you think about it, YouTube is a search engine, right? And so when someone's searching for something, all of the different videos populate on the main homepage. And so you need to stand out from the rest of the videos that are going to populate for that keyword. And if you don't get the click in the first place, then it doesn't really matter. No one's going to watch your video anyways. So that's why it's the most important thing to
Well,
look at.
there's a little accidental hidden tip right there, everybody. I love that. So this is something else that I only just thought about because of what we're saying, but I got down this mental rabbit hole because of changes that are made, right? And thinking about the difference between social media versus like SEO driven search engine. Because the now parent of YouTube at the time of recording is Google, right? So that's why so much of it shows up in search results. Whereas
Yeah.
the, parent of like Instagram is, Meta, right? Who's Facebook, Instagram. They're now siblings, they're step siblings, but still. they're one family now. So it's like their attempt at
Yeah.
SEO was hashtags, and now they're
Yeah.
getting more advanced. So they're trying to become more, more SEO driven. But YouTube and Google always have been. Yeah. And that mental rabbit hole
Mhm. Yeah.
made me think about the change that Google has done with their podcasting, because Google Podcasts has gone away and is now
Yes.
YouTube. So all of these voice only shows
Yes.
actually have YouTube channels, and your video is air quotes is just the
Mhm.
thumbnail for that episode, and then you have the option of throwing up a video for it, right? So that made me think,
Right.
this evolution of stuff that goes on, it's like if you suddenly find yourself having a channel when you didn't necessarily mean to, talking about myself here, is it
Yeah.
this kind of thing where it's like, "Oh gosh, should I leverage this? Should I put up snippets? Should I, use it for shorts? Instead of throwing up this stuff on Instagram, maybe I should actually have these on, on YouTube." Or should you just kind of ignore that part while they figure out what they're doing, and if you're going to do it, create a new channel however you would do it if it was your sole intention? Does that make sense of a question?
Yeah, yeah. So I love that you brought this topic up because there's so many people with a podcast that I think are missing out on a huge opportunity. Because like you said, YouTube podcast is now Google Podcasts. And so yeah, you automatically if you had Google Podcasts, it'll automatically put it up on YouTube if you click the setting. And what happens with YouTube podcasts is it's a separate distribution center as it is the normal YouTube. And when I say separate, I mean it's still showing on your YouTube channel, but it's going in two different places. So it's going on to YouTube Music slash YouTube Podcasts, and it's also going on normal YouTube search homepage with suggested, all those things. So by creating a video podcast, you're now having two distribution sites places for the price of
Oh,
one.
even better.
Yeah, exactly. The amount of traffic and eyeballs you're getting for no extra work is incredible. And so, in my opinion, if you have a podcast, flip the video on and put them up onto YouTube. And don't just click, like, there's a setting that you can click, like, automatically distribute RSS feed. I wouldn't do that.
Mm.
I would manually upload it into YouTube with the proper optimization to get the best, chance of it being found in search. But you can actually mark it when you upload it into YouTube. You can mark it as a podcast, and podcasts on YouTube are basically just playlists, but they're specifically marked as a podcast. And so it creates so much more opportunity for you for something that you're already doing.
I love that. Okay. So there's like a couple of extra steps to add in, but it definitely is like a just add these two extra things into your podcast workflow versus here's a whole other channel that you are now walking into, right? So it's, I mean, they've done the heavy lifting for you. Now
Yeah.
let's leverage it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you're like, I don't want to do the extra steps, at least, I mean, flip on the RSS feed and let it automatically upload. And at least it's some extra eyeballs, right? You never know how many extra things you could get. But the preferred way, if you're going to really optimize it, would be to do those extra steps and upload it.
Mm. Is there a place where you can let it just do its thing to start with? And then once you get ready, do the optimization, like you said, right? So it's like kind of like that idea of I'm trying to reiterate what you just said, but I'm trying to make sure that I'm reiterating it correctly.
Yeah.
So it is a case of, like mastering one platform at a time kind of concept, right? Where it's like this is relatively new at time of recording. It's only been a few months that this has happened. So, if you have even been looking at your podcast emails, did you see like the 15,000 alerts? But for the most part, people weren't even paying attention very much to the Google Podcast distribution. They mainly look at the Apple one and Spotify, and they just kind of like let the rest be done. So they might not have even noticed that this was there and ticked the boxes and set it all up to begin with. So if you're just now being like, oh, wait, crap, I need to go back and do all of this, then tick those boxes, get your authentication, do it. and go ahead and let it RSS until you had the capacity to optimize, or don't bother until you had the capacity to optimize?
Yeah, I mean, either or, right? That's kind of gonna come down to a CEO decision of how much time do you have, what does your team look like, how much capacity, all those
Mm,
things. We always try at least to not bite off more than we can chew, right? Try to concentrate on one thing at a time. It's always the way you're gonna find the most success. But yeah, if you have the capacity to do it right the first time, then obviously I would recommend doing that. But if you don't, then like you said, yeah, just flip on that RSS feed and at least let it upload and then come back and optimize later.
fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I can, for anybody who's wondering, I'm in the optimize later camp because I didn't even know there was optimizing to be done. So like we did the authorization,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being honest. We did the authorization, the transition whenever all of those emails started
Yeah.
coming out, which is why I thought of this question as we were talking, because I was like, oh, wait a minute. And then that had me thinking because, part of what I do on here as well as like the other channels is I always do these little like jargon busting segments. And I was like, let me take my little jargon busting and actually make videos of them. And then they're not very long. They're inside
Mm,
my courses, they're on this podcast, they're in my guest coaching. I do them constantly. And so it's like, let me actually make intentional little videos of them. Now what do I do with them? And I was like, "Oh yeah, I already have, maybe I just throw them up on the thing that already exists." It was that kind of a moment where I was like, it's like just making it part of a platform that I already have. And putting it on like
mhm.
attaching it to the now, you know, I don't know if hosted's the right word, but like the now YouTube channel version of the podcast is so much smarter than letting it get buried inside of your social media feed where maybe you can create a little highlight of it that someone may or may not ever look at.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I'm a huge advocate of how can we repurpose our content what we've already created in strategic ways across our different platforms. Like, let's work smarter, not harder. So I think that's a great
Yeah.
idea.
And I don't know, we accidentally segued a little bit away from your journey, but like so much about what you're doing, and I love how
That's great.
you went from like results to actually allowing people implement and then integrate. And I couldn't let you go without asking these burning little questions. So I appreciate that. But I am curious, like if you had
Yeah.
one like big takeaway that you wanted to leave listeners with, what would that be?
Oh, that's such a great question. Biggest takeaway. I mean, I probably have so many takeaways.
Anything on business or YouTube. Yeah, exactly. It's like on anything entrepreneurship or, I mean, it doesn't have to be YouTube specific. So either way. I mean, because well, you've been doing this a while just like me, right? So it's like we have been through the gambit at this point.
Mm,
So, we feel like the old men in the rocking chairs on the porch.
totally. I think that one of the biggest things that people should remember when you're listening to this is that, you have to always remember that nothing in business is written in stone. Everything is changeable and you are the CEO that can allow yourself to make the changes. This isn't like when you worked a 9 to 5 and you had to go ask your boss for permission. And so anytime you feel like, "Well, I can't do that." I wanna challenge you to think, "Why can't you?" Right? Why can't you make the changes to create the business that you want to create? If you feel like your schedule is too full, how can you change that? How can you bring it back to that original why of why you started your business in the first place? If your course isn't converting or selling like you wanted to, how can you go back and look at the data and change it? So nothing is ever written in stone. And I think when you really adapt that mindset is when you can fully step into the CEO that you're meant to be and really scale your business. And I think that sounds a lot easier than it is sometimes. But when you really, really embrace that, I think is when you can create the business that you really want to create. And that's like the big, big pillar of my business and why I created it is I wanted time freedom, I wanted financial stability, and I wanted to do it on my terms. And so anytime I feel constricted, I have to remind myself to think back to that mindset of I'm the CEO, I get to make the decisions and I get to make the choices that I want to make.
I absolutely love that, and I hardcore agree with that part, and Yes, it is very much a message that I second, third, 500th. So that is a beautiful, beautiful way to say that. And how is your favorite way for people to contact you?
Yeah, well, obviously my YouTube channel, come over there and subscribe. There's lots of great videos over there to show you how to build a successful YouTube channel and also how to bring in leads on YouTube. So definitely check that out. It's at Wandermint Creative is the handle there. And then also if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, hey, I got really good value out of it, or you have a question, message me over on Instagram. That's usually where I like to have the most conversations back and forth in my DMs. So you can find me over there at Wandermint Creative
I
as
love
well.
that. Thank you very much for hanging out with us today and, and
Yeah.
sharing not just your story, but all of the little insider tips that we got. Appreciate that part too. It was a beautiful time having you. So thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for joining me here on Digital Business Your Way. Be sure to check out the show notes for all the links mentioned today. And while you're there, I'd love for you to rate and review the show. And if you have a topic or question you want me to answer, I want to hear it. Head to tracypatterson.com/AMA and ask me anything about business. If I don't know it, I'll bring it up with one of my guests. And until next week, be well and have some fun.